New Zealand is now officially in phase 2 of the Omicron response as COVID numbers continue to surge. So what does that mean for you, and is the government adequately prepared? To discuss these changes, COVID-19 Response Minister Chris Hipkins joins us this morning. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
The new isolation rules mean that if somebody comes over, they don't have to go through MIQ, they can isolate at home with friends and family, but those friends and family can still go out and do their normal things, go to work and go to cafes, all that sort of thing. Is that correct?
That's right. So we have to acknowledge that we're entering a new phase in our COVID-19 response where people coming across the border aren't necessarily going to be any greater risk to us than people who are already in the community. And so we'll be treating them on the same basis. So they'll be effectively treated as a contact and they'll isolate for a period, but they will be able to isolate in a household with other family members. They won't be allowed to have visitors and they won't be able to get out and about, but they'll be regularly tested. So we're reducing risk, but we're not eliminating it completely because we're entering a different phase where there will be more risk out there already.
So isn't this going to disproportionately affect vulnerable families? Because if they have people coming over who are being treated as contacts, vulnerable families are those that are least likely to have the ability to separate in homes, and they're the ones that are going to have to be taking more time off work.
Well, I'd encourage people not to be, coming into the country and isolating in overcrowded situations or in large households.
Some people just don't have that option, though, do they?
Well, of course, I mean, MIQ is still available in some cases where that's absolutely justified. May not be for a long time, but I would encourage people to work out what other alternatives are, whether they can arrange for another place to stay, which is going to expose them to fewer people.
Travellers will also, during their isolation time, in some cases be able to visit hospitals and aged care facilities, and they're only encouraged to take a rapid antigen test before they do so. Surely that's putting our most vulnerable at risk as well?
In terms of the rapid antigen testing, we do expect it's going to be more widely available. I think that our aged care facilities, of course, in many cases have their own policies around who can, come in and out of an aged care facility, and they have, approaches to make sure that they're keeping their residents safe. So
when are those rapid antigen tests going to be more widely available?
At the moment, our focus is on making sure that they are available and that, free tests, free, government-provided tests are available to people who need to get a negative test in order to go to work every day because they're a close contact and because they're essential, because we need them to keep our infrastructure going, our supply chains open and so on.
Of course. So, but when will it be more widely available then to everybody else?
Well, to some extent, that's going to depend on when other parts of the supply chain can get access to them so that they can make them more widely available to others. And at the moment, that is proving to be quite challenging.
So we just simply can't get our hands on enough. We need more. Do you agree with National Leader Chris Hipkins, who said this morning that we just don't have enough? We've got 7 million, we need tens of millions to enable everybody to be able to test to return.
We've secured enough to be able to operate the isolation exemption scheme, which means for people to be able to go to work when they otherwise would need to be isolated. We've got enough tests to be able to do that, and we know that we've got more tests coming in the country that will mean that we can continue to do that.
How many more are coming, and when are they coming?
Oh, we expect by the end of the month to be well into the tens of millions. By the end of March, I think we're expecting another 50 million in March. So we will have quite large quantities coming in, which will allow us to do that. But I know that people want to have access to rapid antigen tests for, businesses want to use them for things like surveillance so that they can just do regular testing of their staff. Government won't be supplying those. If they can source those, then they can certainly do that, but we won't be sourcing those tests for them.
And the pressure on PCR testing, because there's lines for people who I presume are going along asymptomatic, but perhaps are contacts. They're waiting for hours in lines. I mean, people just might stop doing that if
I
they
do
have
expect
to,
that
if they
we'll
face
see
that.
people we'll be using more rapid antigen testing as part of that process, and there's already some of that happening at the moment. But my message is we are seeing a lot of people coming forward who don't have symptoms and who aren't close contacts of people who have COVID-19. And my message to them is please don't come and get a test unless you have a good reason to do so. So if you're showing symptoms or you're a close contact, by all means, come and get tested. But if you don't fit into those categories, please don't.